So does that mean there's basically no color? Well, not exactly. We love Farrow and Ball, don't we? I mean, I do. I don't know about some of you guys, but we can at least agree that collectively they have some really incredible colors in their whole collection. The price of their products, that's maybe a sticking point for some, but this video is all about paint colors, not our wallets. So I'm gonna share with you some information about the very well-regarded off-white that carries the strength of the Brits with it. I really had to stretch for that one. We're talking about strong white. And of course, Farrow and Ball happens to be a British paint company, but their products aren't just limited to the UK. They're also widely available at various paint stores within North America especially, and even if you don't have access to them, or you just don't want to buy them, you can beg your local paint store to color match the colors in any product that you use. So if you're going that route, good luck. If you're new to the Paint People channel, big welcome. Subscribe if you want to stick around. I'd love it if you did. But we're going to talk about strong white, and also I'm going to give you an entire color palette that I created for it with a bunch of other Farrow and Ball colors that go really well with strong white, and also some trim colors too. And I got 2 of them because you really want your baseboards to go with your walls. Trust me. Do not neglect your baseboards, doors, and frames. They need love as well. I mean, I haven't asked them, but I'm sure of it. So let's get right into some notable characteristics of strong white specifically. Unlike a lot of the Farrow and Ball colors, which are rooted in their historic ties to British architecture, it's pretty cool actually. Strong white, on the other hand, is notably one of their contemporary neutrals that are usually paired with more up-to-date modern color palettes and color schemes. It's also fairly muted as a paint color, meaning there's not a ton of visible color to it. Not surprising for a color called strong white. Like, what kind of color is this? So does that mean there's basically no color? Well, not exactly, because if I were to guess, I would say that this is a paint color that probably has maybe a 75 light reflectance value, and that just means it scores 75 out of 100 on the lightness scale. Now in school, I'd be pretty okay with a 75 on my report card. Not much of an overachiever here, but the thing is, 75 is in no way near a perfect score, and that's because strong white is definitely not a perfect white. In fact, it's more of an off-white, one that's incorporating a decent dose of gray and perhaps a slight touch of brown as well, just to give it the slightest taupey feel. It's interesting though, because a color this subtle can manifest in different ways. I've often seen a little bit of that light warm gray peek through, but in other circumstances, you can sometimes see the slightest green poking through as well. It all depends on your home and what's within it and the lighting conditions that plague the whole color selection process. That's why you gotta test your colors. The good thing is, I feel like strong white is very much geared towards the contemporary love affair we all seem to have with neutral paint colors, because it suits that modern aesthetic of neutral canvas homes that you can then decorate in a number of different ways outside of a much brighter, more fun paint color. This is a color that I would definitely recommend as even a primary wall color in a home to build an entire palette off of. There's a lot to like here. It reflects a good amount of light, which means your rooms are going to feel more open and airy. It does have those slight undertones there, but they're not strong enough, strong, get it? Where it's really gonna cause a lot of people big problems. My only criticism, I guess, would be its misleading name. You might have picked it up just based on the fact that you're thinking it's a really strong, vibrant, bright white that'll punch you in the face with how vibrant it is. The thing is, that's not this. So in that respect, I see strong white more as a wall color rather than a white that you would use on ceilings and even trim. It could be a good choice as an exterior white because it'll seem a lot brighter out there on your home, but not too bright where it'll be overpowering, which I think is a good thing for the most part. Now what we're gonna do next is give you some color pairings that I picked for it, and these ones are fairly neutral to begin with, and then progressively get a little more exciting in my books. The first one is Mizzle, and even though it is kind of chill as a color, I love it. It's a favorite of mine from Farrow and Ball, and it famously combines mist and drizzle into a beautiful word that I never knew existed, Mizzle. It just does a beautiful job at personifying this color in a very concise way. Not to say that it's a person, should have just said it just describes it, but words. It just has this very light, casual, yet still sleek feel to it. Kind of like a nonchalant coolness in a way, mixing soft green and blue together. Total spa-like color for me. And although it would rock in bathrooms and I guess places like bedrooms, I could see it working in a lot of other spaces actually, but maybe not everywhere all at once at the same time. It's one of those nearly neutral, subtle accent colors that you could maybe put in a couple rooms just to give them a little more attention rather than just completely covering your space in it. For example, maybe you could put it in all of your bathrooms and your kitchen, and then the rest of the house can have some of the other colors. And speaking of other colors, setting plaster is next. And even though this sounds like a really boring color based on its name, I find this to be a bit of a high risk, high reward pick. It kind of looks beige, a bit tan, maybe a bit of a brown, but what it really has is this rosy quality in its undertones, which can be noticeable in certain situations. In fact, when paired with anything green, like Mizzle, our little buddy over there, the color we just talked about, that rosy quality will be that much more accentuated, which I think is a very fun choice. But that's what I mean by risk versus reward, because I feel like you're either gonna love or hate how that dusty pink and that cool green complement one another, because that's what they're doing. At the end of the day, it is a slightly complementary relationship between red and green at their core, which are kind of like your Christmas colors, really. And who doesn't love Christmas? Now, did I say red? That color wasn't red. Bamboozle. Now that's a red. And a name. What a name for a color. I love this choice because it's deceptively fiery and spicy as a red. It brings in this heat and energy into the palette, and even though there is a hint of orange within it, it does a great job at maintaining its red aspect in a really beautiful way. Needless to say, it's going to feel very complementary to Mizzle, like they're going to be very charged against one another, but it's going to coordinate pretty nicely with setting plaster because they have that sort of reddish quality in some form or fashion, and even strong white to a much lesser degree. They all sort of play nice together, which I enjoy. So we got the main palette colors out of the way. Your trim colors are going to be next, and for your baseboards and your doors and your frames, normally I recommend an off-white to more people than not, and pointing is a great warm casual white that I would recommend in this palette. Technically has a red undertone to it as well, to a very small degree, which will again coordinate with the other colors in this palette, but it's also faint enough that it's not going to really clash with Mizzle, which is kind of the odd person out or color. Mole's Breath is my dark trim choice, and it's described as being a moody gray, but it has a smoky quality that doesn't give it a clear identity undertone wise, which works in its favor as a trim color because it's going to slot in really nicely as a trim color to the other wall colors, whether you're going towards the cooler colors or the warmer colors in this palette. Pointing is probably the easier choice as your main trim color to go throughout your home if you just wanted that lighter trim option, but I love dabbling with dark trim whenever I can. Here's the palette all together. Let me know what you think, please. And here's more Farrow and Ball for you. Thank you. I mean, you're welcome.